Hey, this is Yuri and welcome to Blauparts. Today we're going to be demonstrating how you can change the transmission fluid on a 2007 to 2021 Toyota Tundra 5.7 liter V8 with the 6-speed automatic transmission, also known as the AB60 transmission, which was manufactured by Aisin. This transmission was also used in a variety of other Toyota models, such as the Sequoia, Land Cruiser, and Lexus LX 570 models. As well, this tutorial will also apply to the Aisin A760 transmission used in the Tundra 4.6 liter V8 and Lexus GX 460 models. However, there will be some slight visual differences in the transmission pan, the pan gasket design, and the fluid leveling temperature when doing the transmission fluid level check. For more information on these differences, we'll leave a link in the description below to our blog. For this demonstration, we're going to be using one of our Blau transmission fluid and filter change kits, which conveniently includes everything necessary for changing the transmission fluid and the transmission filter. These kits feature 6 liters of high-performance, fully synthetic WS type transmission fluid in accordance with all 2007 to 2021 Toyota Tundra 6-speed automatic transmission fluid recommendations. We also include a transmission filter with valve body sealing O-ring, the transmission pan gasket and spacers, along with the drain and level plug sealing washers. We also wanted to mention that we've observed many Tundra DIYers using the simple drain and refill method when changing the transmission fluid and filter, simply measuring the amount of fluid that drains from the transmission and then just refilling the transmission with the same amount that was drained, which is typically around 5.7 to 6 liters, which is the amount of ATF we include in our kits. However, today we're going to be demonstrating the fluid refill level check using the temperature-controlled overflow method, which is typically prescribed by the factory service manual. If you choose to follow this method, you should purchase an additional 1-liter bottle of ATF at checkout to accommodate all ATF overflow leveling situations you may experience. We'll leave a link to the needed ATF in the related items below, so let's get started.
Begin by confirming that the transmission fluid temperature is below 37 degrees Celsius or 99 degrees Fahrenheit. In our case, we're monitoring the transmission fluid temperature using a diagnostic scan tool to access the transmission control module and confirm that the transmission fluid temperature is below 37 degrees Celsius or 99 degrees Fahrenheit. If the transmission fluid temperature is above 37 degrees Celsius or 99 degrees Fahrenheit, allow the transmission to cool before starting your fluid change. We suggest all Toyota Tundra 6-speed automatic transmission fluid changes be performed when the ambient temperature is below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. If the transmission fluid temperature is above 37 degrees Celsius or 99 degrees Fahrenheit when starting the fluid change, or the ambient temperature is above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, you will likely run out of time later when performing the remaining transmission fluid filling and leveling procedure steps by exceeding the 44 degrees Celsius or 111 degree Fahrenheit maximum fluid level temperature limit. All further temperature references in this how-to tutorial will refer to Celsius temperature readings. To properly perform your Tundra transmission fluid change, the vehicle and transmission will need to be in a level position. Most Toyota Tundra models have enough ground clearance, allowing the transmission fluid to be changed without lifting the vehicle. In our case, we're going to be gaining access to the bottom side of the vehicle using an SAE-approved automotive lift. To confirm you're lifting the vehicle correctly, you can reference your factory owner's manual for the proper vehicle lift point locations and safety procedures. Begin by locating the transmission fluid fill plug. This is on the driver's side left of the transmission. Using a 24mm socket and ratchet, loosen and remove the fill plug in a counterclockwise direction. Removing the fill plug before draining the transmission fluid confirms you have a way to refill it in case the fill plug is seized and can't be removed. Locate and remove the transmission fluid drain plug. This is toward the rear of the transmission pan. Using a 14mm hex head socket and ratchet, loosen and remove the drain plug and sealing washer in a counterclockwise direction. As you remove the drain plug, allow the old transmission fluid to drain into a suitable waste oil drain pan. During this process, around 3.7 liters will drain. Once the fluid is done draining, you can reinstall the drain plug with sealing washer, threading it in a clockwise direction to a snug, hand-tight feel. This is to minimize fluid dripping as you work under the transmission pan area. Next, you can prepare to remove the transmission pan. Using a 10mm hex head socket and ratchet, evenly loosen all 12 transmission pan mounting bolts in a counterclockwise direction. As you work your way around the pan, remove all mounting bolts except 2, leaving one on each side hand tight, in order to support the pan until its removal. While supporting the transmission pan, loosen and remove the last 2 bolts holding the pan in place. Tip the transmission pan downward, allowing the remaining fluid to drain into a waste oil drain pan. Typically, an additional 2 liters will drain from the pan during this process. Once drained, place the pan out of the work area in a clean environment. Using a 10mm hex head socket and ratchet, remove the 4 transmission filter mounting bolts in a counterclockwise direction. Lightly pull the filter downward, releasing the filter from the valve body. During this process, ensure that a waste oil drain pan is under the filter area to catch any residual fluid that drains from the valve body. Also confirm that the old filter valve body sealing O-ring is removed along with the old filter. Prepare to clean the transmission pan and transmission pan magnets. First, remove the old transmission pan gasket. Now remove the sediment magnets from the pan. When removing the magnets, note their orientation and locations before removal, so you can remember to reinstall them in their original locations. Thoroughly clean the magnets and pan by removing the old fluid residue and sediment. During this process, be sure the gasket mating area on the pan is clean from any imperfections to ensure a reliable seal. Now that the magnets and transmission pan are clean, reinstall the magnets in their original orientation and locations. Next, prepare the new transmission pan gasket by inserting the 12 gasket spacers into the gasket. Once this is completed, align and install the new gasket onto the pan with the round or curved shape of the gasket facing the pan and the flat side facing upward. Prepare the transmission's pan gasket mounting surface area. Make sure the surface area is perfectly clean, free from oil residue, debris, and corrosion. This will ensure a good seal without leaks. Be careful not to scar or mar the gasket mating surfaces when using tools. Prepare the new transmission filter for installation. Confirm the new sealing O-ring is lubricated with fresh transmission fluid and installed on the filter. This will ensure it seals correctly to the valve body and minimizes possible O-ring damage during installation. Align and insert the transmission filter tube with a valve body port. Apply a small amount of upward pressure to slide and seat the filter tube up into the valve body. Once in place, align the filter and begin tightening the 4 transmission filter mounting bolts, threading them in a clockwise direction. Using a 10mm hex head socket and torque wrench, tighten the 4 filter mounting bolts. In our case, we're tightening them to an 84 inch-pound or 9 Nm torque specification. With the filter installed, you can move on to reinstalling the transmission pan and gasket. Align the pan to the transmission and begin installing the 12 transmission pan mounting bolts, threading them in a clockwise direction. Evenly draw the pan up to the transmission using an alternate crisscross sequence while tightening the bolts to a snug, hand-tight feel. During this process, ensure that the transmission pan gasket doesn't slide or shift out of alignment and is evenly compressed to ensure a quality seal during installation. Next, you can begin the final transmission pan tightening sequence. Using a 10mm hex head socket and torque wrench, begin tightening the transmission pan bolts in a clockwise direction using an alternate crisscross sequence. In our case, we're tightening them to a 62 inch-pound or 7 Nm torque specification. Before filling the transmission with fluid, remove the drain plug and install a new sealing washer. Reinstall the drain plug with sealing washer by threading it in a clockwise direction. Using a 14mm hex head socket and torque wrench, tighten the drain plug. In our case, we're tightening it to a 15 foot-pound torque specification. With the vehicle and transmission still in a level position, begin filling the transmission with 6 liters of automatic transmission fluid that meets the recommended Toyota WS World Standard fluid specification. In our case, we're using our fluid transfer hand pump tool, part number J91001. Once you are done adding fluid, you can reinstall the fill plug with sealing O-ring, threading it in a clockwise direction to a snug, hand-tight feel. Next, locate the transmission fluid heat exchanger on the passenger side of the transmission. Some models will include a transmission fluid thermostat for the transmission cooler, located just above the heat exchanger. In our case, the 2019 to 2021 model years do not include the thermostat, and you can omit this step. However, model year 2007 to 2018 will include a thermostat. You will need to locate and compress the thermostat piston and install a locking pin as demonstrated. This will allow the transmission fluid to flow through the transmission cooler lines as the fluid level is being confirmed. With the vehicle still elevated and in a level position, start the engine and allow it to idle. This allows the transmission to pump the new fluid you just added and distribute it within the transmission. While the engine is still idling, and with the brake pedal applied, shift the transmission through each gear selection for about 3 to 5 seconds, from park to reverse, neutral, drive, back to neutral, reverse, and back into park. The shifting sequence you just performed helps remove any air in the transmission fluid system. To ensure all air was removed, we performed this shifting sequence 2 times. With the engine still idling and the vehicle and transmission elevated in a level position, prepare for the final steps in checking and confirming that the transmission fluid level is correct. Begin monitoring the transmission fluid temperature. In our case, we're using a diagnostic scan tool. Start by making sure the transmission fluid temperatures are in the correct range between 37 to 44 degrees Celsius. If the temperature is over 44 degrees Celsius, we would advise you to shut off the engine and let the transmission cool down to below 37 degrees Celsius before proceeding. The lower temperature will allow you enough time to perform the next fluid leveling steps. Remember, the transmission fluid temperature should never exceed 44 degrees Celsius at any time while performing the final transmission fluid level check. Exceeding 44 degrees Celsius will result in an incorrect transmission fluid level. With the engine idling, begin monitoring the transmission fluid temperature. When the fluid is in the 37 to 44 degrees Celsius temperature range, remove the level plug, loosening it in a counterclockwise direction using a 5mm hex bit socket and ratchet. Allow the excess fluid to drain into a waste oil drain pan. The transmission fluid level is correct when a steady stream of fluid flowing from the level port transitions to a light trickling stream between the 37 and 44 degrees Celsius temperature window. Once this is observed, the fluid level is correct, and you can reinstall the level plug with a new sealing crush washer, tightening it in a clockwise direction using a 5mm hex bit socket and torque wrench. In our case, we're tightening it to a 15 foot-pound torque specification. If no fluid was flowing from the level port when you remove the level plug, you will need to pump more fluid into the transmission until you experience a light trickling stream coming out of the level port between the 37 to 44 degrees Celsius temperature window. Next, you can turn off the engine and disconnect the diagnostic scan tool. Allow the transmission and exhaust system to cool down before removing the transmission thermostat compression pin or reinstalling the fill plug. Failure to allow the exhaust system to cool can result in severe burns and injury. Next, if your model was equipped with the transmission fluid thermostat above the heat exchanger, you can compress the thermostat piston while removing the locking pin as previously demonstrated. Tighten the fill plug in a clockwise direction using a 24mm hex head socket and torque wrench. In our case, we're tightening it to a 29 foot-pound torque specification. Last, using a rag, clean any excess fluid from the transmission pan, drain, and level plug areas. This will later help when inspecting and confirming that you have no leaks after performing your fluid change and test drive.
So that's an overview on how to change the automatic transmission fluid and filter on the 2007 to 2021 Toyota Tundra models with the 6-speed AB60 automatic transmission. If you'd like to see our other Toyota Tundra DIY fluid change and maintenance videos, or if you'd like to learn more about our full range of high-performance engine oils, transmission fluids, transfer case fluids, and gear oils for your Toyota Tundra, or any of your other vehicles, you can visit our website at Blauparts.com. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.